This is devastating. And I'm using that word in its most literal sense. Because what just happened in Minnesota is not just another resignation, not a quiet exit, not a bureaucratic reshuffle buried in a press release. This is the acting United States Attorney for Minnesota, the top federal prosecutor in the state, walking out the door. And he didn't leave alone. His two top deputies walked out with him, all three resigning at the same time, all three saying, in effect, "We cannot do this anymore." Before we go any further, I want you involved in this story because what you're about to hear raises a question that cuts to the core of justice in this country. So take a moment and tell me in the comments, should the Justice Department ever investigate the victim's family instead of the government agent who killed them? And if your answer is no, what does it mean when prosecutors are ordered to do exactly that? I want to know what you think because this is not abstract. This is happening right now. The resignations in Minnesota expose something far more disturbing than internal disagreement. They reveal just how far the Trump administration is willing to go to rewrite reality, to suppress accountability, and to weaponize the legal system against people who have already suffered unimaginable loss. The man who resigned is Joe Thompson, the acting U.S. Attorney for Minnesota. A career prosecutor, decades of experience, someone who wasn't resisting the administration, wasn't undermining it, wasn't dragging his feet. Thompson was actively carrying out Trump's agenda. He was the lead prosecutor on a major welfare fraud case that the administration wanted aggressively pursued. This was someone the Department of Justice trusted, someone they relied on, someone who did exactly what he was asked to do. Until the order came down that crossed a line so fundamental that Thompson refused to put his name on it. The Department of Justice ordered him to open a criminal investigation into Becca Good, the widow of Renee Good. Renee Good was shot in the face by an ICE agent during what was supposed to be a peaceful First Amendment protest. Becca Good is now raising 3 children alone, including a 6-year-old who has already lost one parent and now lives with the trauma of losing another. That is the person the administration wanted investigated, not the ICE agent who fired the shots, not the command structure that approved the operation, not the policies that allowed armed federal agents to confront peaceful protesters. The widow. Joe Thompson looked at that order and said, no. He said, this is not justice. This is not law enforcement. This is retaliation. This is using the power of federal prosecution to intimidate and punish someone for exercising constitutional rights. And he refused to be part of it, so he resigned. Harry Jacobs resigned. Melinda Williams resigned. The entire leadership of the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office walked out rather than carry out that order. That does not happen unless something is profoundly wrong. Think about what it takes for a federal prosecutor to resign. These are not impulsive people. These are not activists looking for attention. These are individuals who spent years building careers, reputations, stability. They have families, mortgages, futures, and they walked away because staying would have meant betraying everything they swore to uphold. And the timing is not accidental. These resignations come as the administration is desperately trying to change the narrative surrounding the killing of Renee Good. They do not want the public focused on the fact that a federal agent shot an unarmed U.S. citizen who was exercising First Amendment rights. They do not want scrutiny. They do not want accountability. They want distraction. So they are trying to flip the story. Instead of asking why an ICE agent fired multiple shots at someone who posed no threat, they are asking who paid Renee and Becca Good to be there. Instead of investigating the killing, they are pushing conspiracy theories about outside agitators, funded networks, shadowy organizations. J.D. Vance went on television and openly suggested that Renee and Becca Good could not possibly have been ordinary citizens acting on conscience alone. He asked who sent them, who funded them, who coordinated them. It's a familiar tactic. When authoritarian systems face public outrage, they don't engage with the facts. They delegitimize dissent. They claim protest is manufactured. They insist no one could genuinely oppose them without being paid. But the truth is simple, and it's documented on video. Renee and Becca Good were in their car with their dog. They saw ICE agents operating in their neighborhood. They showed up. They blew whistles. They called attention to what was happening. They did not attack anyone. They did not threaten anyone. They were protesting peacefully. And an ICE agent shot Renee Good in the face while her car was moving away from him, not toward him, away. The agent was standing in a position that violated standard law enforcement procedure. He had a phone in one hand and a gun in the other. He fired multiple shots and killed an unarmed citizen. And here is the most chilling part. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, the very office responsible for investigating constitutional violations by federal agents, has been ordered to stand down. They are not investigating the killing. They are not examining whether Renee Good's civil rights were violated. They are not asking whether lethal force was justified. They are silent. But the widow is being investigated. That is the priority. Joe Thompson understood exactly what that meant. He was being asked to legitimize a cover-up, to turn prosecution into persecution, to help the administration send a message: if you protest, if you bear witness, if you challenge federal power, the government will come after you. And he refused. This matters far beyond Minnesota, because prosecutors across the country are watching. Career officials throughout the Justice Department are watching. They are seeing resignations pile up. They are seeing the Civil Rights Division shut down. They are seeing the Department of Justice transformed from an institution of law into an instrument of political control. Some are leaving, others are staying and resisting quietly. Slow-walking cases, declining to pursue politically motivated investigations, doing what they can to preserve some shred of integrity from the inside. But the pressure is relentless. And when good people leave, they are replaced. Someone else will be appointed to run the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office. Someone who will carry out the investigation Thompson refused. Someone willing to do what he would not. That is why Minnesota's Attorney General has stepped in. Keith Ellison has filed a sweeping lawsuit against DHS and ICE, asking federal courts to impose constitutional limits on ICE operations in Minnesota. Limits that should not need to be litigated, but now must be. The lawsuit demands probable cause for arrests, restrictions on the use of force, protections for First Amendment protesters, body cameras, identification, accountability, basic constitutional requirements. The federal government's response has not been reflection or restraint. It has been escalation, more agents, more operations, more pressure, more intimidation. That is the message being sent. Dissent will be met with force, and accountability will be met with retaliation. Joe Thompson's resignation matters because it shows the system has not completely collapsed yet. It shows there are still people willing to say no, still officials willing to choose conscience over career, still lines that some will not cross. But resignations alone will not save democratic institutions. Courts matter, public scrutiny matters, citizens paying attention matters. Because what happened to Renee Good could happen anywhere. If federal agents can operate without constitutional limits, no one is protected. If victims are investigated instead of perpetrators, the rule of law is hollow. This story is far from over. The lawsuit will move through the courts. More prosecutors will face similar choices. More officials will have to decide whether integrity still matters. If you want to follow what happens next, not just the headlines but the consequences, make sure you're subscribed. Because stories like this don't end when the cameras turn off. They end when accountability finally catches up, or when it doesn't.